देखो पहले मैं तो बोलूँगा, तुम्हें वो रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा कि
अच्छा एक बार मुझे नाम देना थोड़ा उन लोगों का
सबका डॉक्टर पिनाकी रॉय
ये भी लिखा हुआ है कहीं पे तुम्हारा?
लिखा हुआ तो है लेकिन तुम हैंड राइटिंग
मुझे तो
प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा तुम्हारा। इसमें ये पेज पे तुम ले
यहाँ से देख लूँगा मैं।
You have the page, no? That second page you can. इसको अलग अलग लोग चाहिए इसको एक्सेप्ट करने के लिए। देखिए वो जिस मशीन से होता है ना वो मशीन अलग से होना चाहिए जो जिस मशीन से वो
तुम्हारा वो क्या बोलता है उस दिन नहीं है तो उधर वाला साउंड आ रहा है। तुम्हारा
अच्छा ठीक है
तो आखिर मैडम ने लॉगिन किया है।
नहीं देखिए ये तो
बहुत सारा एडमिट कर दो। मुझे भी एज अ एडमिन ही लॉगिन कराया है। सुनो ना मुझे भी एडमिन का ये दे दिया क्योंकि मेरे पास में अकाउंट था ना। तुम्हारा सीओसी वगैरह ने ज्वाइन किया?
फोन करके
नहीं फ़ोन करने का कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है। हाँ पिनाकी सर ने वो किया लॉगिन किया है तुम उनको लॉग कर दो।
हेलो Hello everyone. Please, if your microphone is on, please mute your microphone. Please, if you have if your microphone is on, please
off your
off your
microphone.
microphone.
Hello.
Hello.
If
If someone is
the
having the
microphone
microphone on, please
the
mute your
microphone.
microphone.
Hello,
Hello,
everyone,
everyone,
please
please
off your
off your
microphone,
microphone,
please.
please. Please
Off your
off your microphone,
please.
please
Mute your
mute your
microphone.
microphone. Hello everyone, please mute your microphone.
Please mute
Please mute your microphone.
You say while the session is on, I request you all to put off your microphone, and you can put on the video, but microphone is. You say that we'll be starting our session shortly, and please put off your mute your microphone.
Hello everyone.
We'll
We'll
start our
session very shortly. Please, everyone, mute your microphone, please. Okay, otherwise it's not going to be possible to hear our speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will start our session
session
very soon.
very soon.
Shall we start?
Wait, just exactly at 12. Yeah, you can start. Introduction to speaker is also there, no?
Mute sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay? Hello.
Hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
Please mute your microphone. We will start very shortly. I request everyone, please mute your microphone so that we can start our session. Respected teachers, my colleagues, scholars, and my dear students. Good morning, and welcome you all in this online special lecture series on British literature in the 20th century, organized by the Department of English, Balurghat Mahila Mahavidyalaya, in collaboration with IQSSL. Now, I would like to request Dr. Kiran Sona, IQSC Coordinator and Assistant Professor of Botany, Balurghat Mahila Mahavidyalaya, for a welcome address. Over to you, Dr. Kiran sir.
Thank you, Amit. A very warm welcome and good afternoon to all the respected speakers who have joined us today, and also to all the respected participants who have accepted our invitation to join this online special lecture series. It is indeed a great opportunity and pleasure for me to welcome one and all on this online series of special lectures. On the very onset, I would like to congratulate the convener, Mr. Amit Ray, and his entire team from the Department of English of Balurghat Mahila Mahavidyalaya for making it possible during these difficult times to coordinate with you all to come up with such a relevant topic for the students, and also to coordinate with each one of you to make this happen. Well, I don't want to take much of your time, but as I'm not a student of literature by any means, but what I've understood throughout all these days and out of my experience, that literature is a window that would reflect the mood and truths of a society, whether it be in a manner of fiction or drama or biography or real life stories. It is the literature that has actually helped human being to evolve socially. And keeping that in mind, I am very much sure that students and all the participants, faculty members across India and wherever they have logged in to this web portal, they would definitely listen to our esteemed speakers and they would definitely benefit. And I'm sure that this will be another milestone in the way of learning from them. Well, I take this opportunity on the behalf of Balughat Mahila Mahavidyalaya and the organizing committee that to express my gratitude to all of you and to convey you that Mahila Mahavidyalaya is one of the only girls college or Mahila women's college in the entire district of Dakhin Dinajpur, and I'm very much glad that we have been accredited B plus in the recent NAC accreditation conducted recently in the last year. So I would like to take this opportunity once again to warmly and heartily welcome our esteemed speaker for the day, Dr. Pinaki Roy, and Professor of Raiganj University in Raiganj. I welcome you, sir, and I am also delighted to listen to you, your views and your motivational lecture that I am looking forward to. Thank you very much, sir, and I welcome you once again. I would also like to welcome the forthcoming speakers for tomorrow, Sri Hemant Kumar, who is the Assistant Professor in Vidyasagar University in West Bengal, Dr. Athira Sachidharan, Assistant Professor of Diraswan Board College in Kollam in Kerala, and they would be speaking to us, to the students tomorrow. I once again express my gratitude, thankfulness, and hearty welcome to you all, dear and esteemed speakers. I hope and I wish this online seminar to be a success, and we will take away home a very clear-cut message that whatever might be the situation around, we the academicians and the learners should not stop, and we should pursue everything possible in our own way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran, for your welcome address. Now for this online special lecture series. The 20th century opened with great hope, but also with some apprehension for the new century marked the final approach to a new millennium. For many, humankind was entering upon an unprecedented era. The first quarter of the 20th century was a remarkably productive period of innovation and experiment.
As novelists and poets undertook. In
Anthologies and magazines to challenge the literary conventions, not just of the recent past, but of the entire post-Romantic era. In this two-day online special lecture series, we have a panel of 3 speakers. In today's session, Dr. Pinaki Roy, Professor and Head, Department of English, will talk about Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalby. And in tomorrow's session, first, Sri Hemant Kumar, Assistant Professor of English, Vidyasagar University, will talk about modernism as such. And in the second session of tomorrow, Dr. Athira Sashidharan, Assistant Professor, Devasham Board College, Kollam, Kerala, will analyze G.B. Shaw's Pygmalion. Focusing on the speaker of today's session, Dr. Pinaki Roy, Professor and Head of Department of English, Raiganj University, who is my teacher and mentor. I don't have the credibility to introduce him. He has published more than 200 articles and chapters in reputed national and international journals and in books. He has also authored many books. Popular among them are The Mannequin Investigators, a post-colonial cultural reading of the Sherlock Holmes and Byomkesh Bakshi, published by Showroom and Sons, New Delhi publisher. The Scarlet Critic, a critical anthology of war poetry, published by Showroom publisher, New Delhi. Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms, a critical approach, published by Booksway, Calcutta. War English Literature, Bridging Oneness, published by Author Press, New Delhi. There are such many popular books which has been authored by Dr. Pinaki Roy. He has also done his double MA in history from IGNOU recently in 2014. He has many achievements in his credit, which if I have started, the list will go on. So I'll not take enough time, or I'll not take much time to introduce him. Rather, we will listen him directly. Sir, over to you, sir.
Amit, ask him to unmute the mic and speak.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Pinaki, sir.
Pinaki, sir.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Ask him to unmute.
Oh, sorry.
Ah, okay.
I was not audible.
Okay,
Amit,
okay. Yeah, it's audible, sir. Now.
sorry.
It's audible.
So basically, yeah. First of all, I register my thanks to the teaching faculty members and the non-teaching faculty members of Baluat Mula Mahabhidyalaya, to Dr. Sula, who is the coordinator of the IQSC Baluat Mula Mahabhidyalaya, and of course to my student and and also your teacher, Professor Amit Roy, who is also the coordinator for today's program, and also to the other faculty members of the Department of English. Basically, I am sure that Amit has actually introduced me in such glorious terms which I do not deserve at all. I have done almost nothing, and I would also like to offer a correction because my number of publications is not that much. Actually, what Amit has said, I beg to differ with him. But well, I shall try to go on with my lecture, which is going to be on Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. And before that, I would like to focus at least some portions on the characteristic features. And first of all, I would like to first of all, I would like to. Sorry, a phone had actually come. Okay. First of all, I would like to focus on some of the characteristic features of modernism and postmodernism. And modernism is in English literature. Actually, modernism is a very transnational term. There is no particular literature which could be actually specifically identified as modern literature, but it is an umbrella term which actually covers literatures of different countries of the world. But it is assumed that modernism in literature, at least in English, began with the beginning of the First World War, that was in 1914, which began in 1914 and ended in 1918, and it ended with the Second World War, that was in 1945. And this lecture is supposed to be especially for the English students, and that is why I am trying to make it clear to them. And when modernism was actually continuing in England, assumed that modernism literature, at least in English, actually five rulers began ruling England one after another. The first was Edward II and ended in 1918, and it ended one to 1910, and there was George V thereafter. This lecture is supposed to be especially for the English students, and that is why I am trying to make it just for 1 year from. And when modernism was actually continuing in England, assumed that earlier characteristics in English began with the ruling and the first one was in 1959, and Virginia Woolf had written this this lecture is supposed to be by especially for the George V. Just for 1 year from when modernism was actually continuing in England, assumed that earlier and Russia attacking England during the period was still the dramatic one when pretty much it was also what is considered a very small failure. But during the First World War, the devastation was just it was unimaginable. So basically, what actually emerged out of the First World War was actually a disease which was known as trauma or post-traumatic stress disorder or shell shock. I am specifically referring to this disease because shell shock is an important part in the conception of septimus is one of the very important factors of disease diagnosis. The shell shock and hysteria, it was actually caused by sudden extreme respectively first 2 years, 20 years, and it suffers from sleep disorders, suffers the lack of focus, to isolate, to become very positive. Interestingly, original healthcare suffered from such kind of mental condition. Interestingly, it was not labeled shell shock, but she also had suffered from such conditions, some physical conditions, which are not allowed by abuses at the hands of her stepbrother. When Virginia was growing up, she was studying with some of her So basically, please excuse me, just from the administration and platform to the music. So basically, when the First World War had started, many of the British soldiers, interestingly, it was actually dedicated to the English soldiers. The post-traumatic stress disorder, it was dedicated to the English soldiers. No one knows why. So basically, it was a disease which came to be affected through the First World War, and Virginia herself had noticed several soldiers who had actually been afflicted with this shell shock, and she had also lost several of her friends and relatives to the First World War, and she had also seen some of her friends who had actually suffered from the post-traumatic disease due to the operating in the mental hospital, and since she had been afflicted with her feet, it was actually predicted by the experiences of the soldiers that she had seen all around her way. So it was actually biography. She was a very talented novelist who had also of one's so there was an idea of a room of one's own. So she that essay, which was published in 1920s, said that if a woman writer seeing life something as unique, try something famous, she needs to actually a room of one's own. Now I'm mentioning this because Regina was a very much independence-loving woman. She was a feminist and she fiercely guarded her independence. So she always said that a woman can actually act at any point. It is not necessary that she should be young in order to become a heroine, a quote-unquote heroine. She need not have exceptional qualities in order to become the central character of the novel. And this was what she was loving. She really focused on in Mrs. Dalloway. Now, Mrs. Dalloway focuses on the single day experience of Mrs. Forrester Dalloway, who is the wife of Richard Dalloway, who is an MP in the British Parliament. What is very important is that the age of Mrs. Dalloway is very much significant. It is between 51 years. Now, we are not habituated to seeing the central character of our woman figure, who is very beautiful and just well past her middle. She is 51 years. Now, it was actually a very important feature of Mrs. Dalloway, which has endeared her to different feminists all around. They say that a woman, in order to achieve simplicity, she must not be very much young. And with we are actually guided by the traditional patriarchal notion that quote unquote just doing I am using this term must be done like must be full of value. And so that way now I would like to first this modern period. Now the art of novel writing, which had actually began during the Augustan age, when a novel became very popular and was first published. It matured during the modern age, and there were three kinds of novels. First was the Bildungsroman, that was the novel of formations. There was the Erziehungsroman, the novel of education. Roma is an Erziehungsroman, by the way. And there is the third novel, which is known as Künstler Roman, which is the artist novel, of whose example is Georgios Sappho's The Young Man, which was published in 1916. There is the Moms, the Moonlight Sequence, which was published in 1919. Actually, The Lighthouse, once again by Virginia Woolf, which was published in 1927. Georgios Orwell's 1926 novel. These are all the examples of the Künstler Roman or the artist novel. Now, an artist novel actually focuses on an artist who is essentially alone in the society. Now, if you actually study Mrs. Dalloway, you cannot say that Mrs. Dalloway is an artist. That's it. She has got some of the pictures of an artist, and she has also got some unconventional views regarding the society. Now, it actually brings her to be with the artist. Now, the novel of formation of Bildungsroman, the examples are Felix Lawrence's Uncle Robert, published in 1915, Francis Capital's Suicide Paradise, published in 1920, and Margaret Mitchell's Son of Wayne, 1926, and Emma Oxford's was an Erziehungsroman, which is a novel of education. Now, Mrs. Dalloway is a prototype Künstler Roman. It deals with the sufferings of an artist, which actually maybe significantly is a war veteran, and he is also an artist, and is also a great hallucinator who ultimately commits suicide at the end of the novel. He is always suffering alone and all alone, and according to the Künstler Roman, the artist is there to suffer. And also, there is also a large number of critics that actually propose that Virginia Woolf was also trying to show Charity Dalloway as an artist. She is a socialite lady whose art is to create, whose art is to organize several high society gatherings. And her husband, as we know, Richard Dalloway, is an MP, and that is why in order to keep up with the official engagements and requirements of her husband, Clarissa Dalloway actually arranges for some persons. And so, when we are actually moving on to Mrs. Dalloway, I should first discuss some of the characters of which are actually very much famous. But before that, I should also say that Virginia herself, while she was writing Mrs. Dalloway, and before that, she had been suffering from stress disorders, and she was also very much suicidal. She would ultimately commit suicide by filling up her down pocket with several stones and going deep inside the river just near her home. Her dead body was found just maybe after 8 to 10 days. So Virginia Woolf had got this manic excitement, and she was also having this suicide. Now, in most of her novels, which I'm sure that they would also be referring to other novels as they grow up, they study more. So many of her novels, there are these instances, or there are these suggestions of the suicidal tendency. That is the stage of the errors and the coming of the anarchs. So basically, Virginia Woolf, after the death of her father, after the death of her mother, after the death of many of her friends during the First World War, she had always become suicidal. And after the death of her father, she was treated by the eminent psychiatrist George Sutherland, who had actually said that, first of all, he said that Virginia Woolf was completely okay, it was just kind of her acting or something like that, and so he suggested that Virginia Woolf should not be treated. Thereafter, when George Sanders was treating Reginald for a suicidal tendencies and for a depression, he said that this is what happens when a woman becomes domestic. Interesting, he was supposed to be one of the better psychiatrists of India, and he was of the view that when a woman becomes very much educated, she suffers from hallucinations. And so he had also blamed her education, and he said that her education had actually made her sick. And thereafter, once again, it announced that Reginald had been cured out of her diseases, and then once again she began to suffer from the suicidal tendencies, and he said that this person, this Reginald, needs to be institutionalized, should be confined to home. We don't know what is home confinement is right now. So she should be confined to her home, and thereafter she should also be taken to different institutions and facilities. I'm sure that some of you have already watched well interacted. There could be some kind of connection between this Reginald's experiences and how she and the struggle is institutionalized. So it was a kind of institutionalization. So basically, when she was actually creating the figure of the William Bradshaw, which is supposed to be one of the most famous psychiatrists of England, she was probably guided by her memories of George Sanders. So basically, she had got a very kind of ironic figure when she had created the character of the William Bradshaw, and particularly because of this William Bradshaw's erroneous treatment, that actually this Septimus commit suicide, or rather he is forced to commit suicide. It was partially because of the mistreatment created by William Bradshaw. Now, Septimus' original physician was Dr. Holmes, who had actually referred him to Dr. William Bradshaw, and interestingly, when Septimus had committed suicide by jumping out of his window, and interestingly, Reginald herself had once attempted suicide by jumping out of her window. When she was institutionalized inside her home, she had opened the upper first two window pane, and she had considered jumping off the pane and she jumped. She suffered from some injuries, but she was once again cured, and probably she thought that this jumping from a height would be a very painless, form of suicide, which actually also to us discovered. First of all, we should mention the character of Clarissa Dalley, who is a 51-year-old 70-something novelist, the mother of Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a bisexual character. Interestingly, a virginal person was a bisexual woman, and she had also suffered from bipolar disorders, and she was also bisexual. Was a relationship to beta substances and several other female players that appeared on for her some kind of unfortunate probably tried to conceive Elizabeth Dalley and her children on her own lines of lesbian attraction. And Clarissa Dalley also, that is the central figure, that is the most important character of Mrs. Dalley, is a bisexual figure. So she had actually got her relationship with Sally Sutton. He was a love interest, and Sally Sutton was what is the kind of a terrible or something like that, term you like. Sally Sutton had actually once reenacted this round, and there was also very much conventional about playing on her wearing conceptualizes, and thereafter Sally Sutton as the lover or the love interest of Clarissa, she had once Clarissa, and Clarissa still remembers her novel opens, it is supposed to be one of the mid-June days of 1928, and Clarissa still remembers how she has actually shared a warm kiss with Clarissa, who is right now Lady Roster, who has got 5 children, and she is growing conventional with age. Now, interestingly, if Clarissa is supposed to be the figure that's supposed to be the demonstration of a very independent woman, a woman with great independence in her mind, she also shows how conventionality actually holds this woman down, this woman's life. So basically, Sally Stevens has actually become conventional with age. She has matured. Now this maturity actually means that she is moved to cater to the requirements of the society. Now Sally Stevens, when the novel opens, she is a very quote-unquote thin, quote-unquote docile woman who has actually come out of her sari first. But Clarissa Dalloway, interestingly, in spite of her age and in spite of her marriage, she has actually held to her own opinion, and she actually is no longer very much dependent on her husband. She has actually married her husband based on her economic status, and I'm going to discuss this. Now, we first turn to the character of Elizabeth Dalloway, who is representing her own daughter of Clarissa Dalloway and Richard Dalloway. She has oriental look. She is very important because it is based on the post-colonial analysis. One can actually say that Elizabeth Dalloway's oriental look has actually created some of the problems. So basically, Elizabeth Dalloway is represented as an oriental figure, and she loves politics, she loves modern history. Her mother doesn't love politics, her mother doesn't love modern history, but she loves modern history, she loves politics. But interestingly, she doesn't have any idea of what she is actually going to be once she grows up. So basically what happens is that Elizabeth Dalloway, who is supposed to be one of the lesbian partners of she had decided to become a farmer. It is very interesting that one cannot actually decide what she is going to become. A doctor, she would either become a farmer, and she is also very close to her father. We know that it has some psychological elements to it. So she would actually rather spend time in the country with her father, and she is not very close to her mother, and she feels that her mother is very much paying her bread mother, which actually is not enough. Now there is Richard Dalloway. He is a very quote-unquote simple-minded man. Simple-mindedness in English actually is the euphemism for his foolishness. He is also a very conventional person who actually is very much disconnected from his wife, but he pretends that he is in love with his wife, and he almost always forgets to be present for his wife and everything, and he has got a very important position in the British government, and he is completely immersed in his work, in his political work with the British government. Now he is an MP, as I said, that is an MP, and that is why he has got certain restrictions regarding the enjoyment of life, and he doesn't actually enjoy life out of his office, and that is when he has become very much kind of disconnected from his wife. So you meet Mrs. Stillman or Mrs. Doris Stillman. Her name is not Stillman, which and she has got a German ancestry, and because during the First World War the anti-German sentiment was running high in the British society, she had actually lost her job as a history teacher. She has come to hate the world, she has come to hate the coziness of the British high society. She is in love with Elizabeth Dalloway in a kind of a quote-unquote lesbian kind of way, and she actually hates this Clarissa Dalloway. She feels that her very important follower is Elizabeth Dalloway, and she actually reminds me of Christian Group. Also, actually remember this novel by Louis The Crime of Christian Group. Christian Group, she was a school teacher who has actually built up a group of boys of her own. Now, one can actually compare the characterization of or the character of Miss Doris Tillman with that of Miss Chintu, the novel and movies. Now, she has also got some favorable ideas about the German. Some of her relatives have already been killed, and she actually doesn't actually like Finland, and she loves spending some time with people, and she's always a very bluntly figure all throughout the novel. She's not a happy figure at all, and she's always writing a messenger which actually makes her very quaint, very startling, and once again she is deeply immersed in her newfound Christianity, and that is the character of Doris Tillman. And Doris Tillman, as I have already said, that she is Lady Austria, the mother of 5 children, who was actually a very young woman, but later she has actually grown conventional with age. That is, once again, I have actually said that she has actually been forced to submit to the requirements of the patriarchal society, and that is why she has become conventional clothes, and they are very good work on those almost probably the othermost important figure of Galway, that is Septimus Valens. Now, Septimus Valens is a homosexual veteran from the First World War. His superior officer and Mark Atkinson, he had actually been killed during the war, during the First World War, and thereafter he had come to suffer from shell shock and post-traumatic stress disorder. And he is always hallucinating, he is always wearing glasses, and he always feels that the war is going to come to the world is always going to come to an end, and he always tortures upon those people who actually really love him, and everything relegated to a specific one person member, and that is his wife, who is so Septimus Valens, he had suffered from shell shock, and he was being treated by Dr. Holmes, who had actually referred him to William Bradshaw, and because of William Bradshaw's treatment, he ultimately finally is forced to commit suicide. Now, he was actually, one cannot say that Septimus Valens was a coward, because it has been mentioned specifically that he was decorated during the First World War. So he was a great soldier. But what happened is that during the death of his superior seasons and during the constant explosion of shells, he had actually come to suffer from this neurological problem. Now, this neurological problem, and because of Virginia Woolf's own conventions regarding suicide and his responsibility for professional suicide, now all this is actually propelled into making Septimus Valens a very interesting character. Now, at the end of the novel, his suicide actually kind of brings together all the people who had actually come to against the Doris Valens. Actually, what happens throughout the story is that it is a saga of in the life of Doris Valens, who is actually going to organize a party in the evening, and in the evening party, which is where also the Prime Minister of England himself attends the party. Now, several hypothetical people come in, and they are all connected to one another by this name of Septimus Valens. Some of them shudder, some of them are indifferent. This Clysedella herself is very much, I would say, struck by the myth of the death of Septimus Valens, asking that in the evening he will come to preserve his happiness by committing suicide. Now we can always contest with you, but well, she was actually, on the one hand, she was struck, and the other hand, she was happy. Now, this is Septimus Valens, which was always his wife, Lucrezia Valens, who is an Italian. She was Italian, and she had married Septimus Valens just a few years, but she never actually loses her patience with Septimus Valens. She always cries. She sometimes cries. She cries because her husband is always quote unquote torturing her psychologically, and she is also trying her level best in order to give some amount of happiness to her husband. She always tries to make him feel that, well, not everything is that bad. but too much differently. Now, most of the time, readers find that happiness is suffering from a kind of, what to say, loses her patience, and she is burdened by the mental illness of her husband, and because she is married to a mentally ill person, she is always judged harshly by the society where she lives. She lives in England, where she has to make him feel that, well, interestingly, is that the position of Italy during the First World War was very much, what to say, very much kind of questionable, because the Italians at first promised the Germans that they would not attack Germany. Then all of a sudden there is Italy on a back when the Germans suddenly attacked and military she now in England, the Italians during the First World War and during the Second World War, they chose to make it feel that Hitler didn't insist of this competition. Now, interestingly, when Hitler Warren's maid, she actually married a quote-unquote mentally unstable person, quote-unquote, I will use this term within the but interestingly, she also deeply loves her husband, and that is why her sense of devotion to him, her love for him, actually drives her to and she is supposed to live with them. And there's a work of what actually happened to her after she so basically, we can see that her message is just she must return to her parents. She must return to her relatives in Italy. Because she has already been to hell because of the antics of her husband, and that is why she must return to Italy to be left normal. Peter Walsh is a character whom a person of faith has brought in order to judge the question of marrying her. Now, Peter Walsh was a friend of Clarissa, and he had also proposed to her, but Clarissa had actually proposed because Peter Walsh did not have much position. Now, she actually took Richard Sedalia because he was very cheap and because he was financially received. Now, Virginia Woolf actually inclined the relationship, actually asking this question, now, one with romantic ideas like Peter Walsh, or one with financial security. Now, interestingly, she had shown that with romantic ideas, she is a very interesting person. She Richard Galloway is an MP. Now, he is financially stable, but well, he is a very boring character as far as Clarissa Galloway is concerned. So basically, that is the question which Personal had actually put forward to her own readers to judge. Who should actually do that? Now, Peter Walsh, he has also got a very financial target. He does have a unique life of his own. He went to India, where he fell in love with Katie, who is the married wife of Major. And when this novel publishes, he is in the process of getting a divorce for benefits from her own husband, and he plans to marry her. Now, he has quickly returned to England, and he is also invited by Clarissa, and Clarissa also remembers distinctly how he has actually once proposed to her, and thereafter he has requested her. Now, Peter Walsh, he is a lover of Clarissa. He actually is not of a good opinion regarding her. He thinks that Richard had actually spoiled her, one, and second, that she is also wasting her own credibility, her own power by arranging the party for her. When he visits her party, he is not in a very favorable opinion of Clarissa. Now, I am actually discussing these characters because these characters actually make up the story, what actually happens in Mrs. Galloway. It is as I said, it is just the story of the cruelty in the life of Clarissa Darwin, and many people have actually kind of made a comparative study with James Joyce's Ulysses, which was published in 1922. It actually deals with the 16 June 1904 one-day life of Leopold Bloom, and it also this novel is also set in mid-June. It is in 1923. Remember that the novel was published in 1925, and this novel is set in June 1923, mid-June. Mid-June, importantly, is one of the most it was one of the most pleasant times in England. So in June and July, the British weather is very much pleasant. And what James Joyce and what Virginia Woolf they were trying to show is that, in spite of the pleasantness of the weather, in spite of this weather being very pleasant, there are several elements of uncertainties, doubts, fear, anxieties, which are roaming in the British minds. And particularly after the Dutch age, they become very much jumpy. They feel that, well, it is once again England is at war and the Germans are coming in. So basically, what happens in throughout Mrs. Dalloway is that we are having a great study of a number of people, numerous people who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. They in a very limited sense of the term, and their representative is Septimus Warren. Now, in Septimus Warren speak, we get those fears and doubts and anxieties which are also lurking within the British mind just after the First World War. Now, there is another character who is Hugh Whitbread. Now, Peter Walsh, he is not liked by Clarissa. Clarissa regards him as a good friend, but well, she is not in very she doesn't have a very favorite impression of him. And there is another of his friends, who's her friends, whose name is Hugh Whitbread. He also enjoys some clout in the British government. He is also a government officer. But now, Clarissa, Richard, Peter, all of them actually find him very obnoxious. He is not liked by Clarissa. Clarissa regards him as a good friend, but well, she is not someone who is invited to Clarissa. Very much self-satisfied. And there is another of his friends, who's her friend, called Nemesis, and he also enjoys some clout in the British government. He is also government officer. He is okay. But now, Clarissa, Richard, Peter, all of them actually doesn't give him much idea. He is actually the caricature. She is not someone who I remember that one of the things that I just want to self-satisfied and this is and now I just should not be repeated and everything. And thereafter, but they didn't know that, well, they're soon going to face the Second World War. And what happened during the First World War is that I'm once again repeating, Virginia Woolf had lost several of her friends and relatives to the war. Second, her own husband, Leonard Woolf, whom she actually married in 1812 after a series of tumultuous courtship, he was on the danger of being conscripted. Now, England in 1916 had actually issued general conscription, and people were forced to enlist themselves in the army. Now, Leonard Woolf had been suffering from some medical condition, and that is why he was exempted from duty. But well, this anxiety of Leonard's being called to the army to be conscripted as an army man, it has also shocked Virginia Woolf, and she once again tried to commit suicide. Now, there are several suicidal attempts of Virginia Woolf on record. She was always suffering from deep depression. And probably because of her own bipolar disorders, and she was also having these problems with her lesbianism and everything, her bisexuality and everything. So basically, people did not like to make friends with her, and that is why Virginia Woolf was always suffering from depression. And this depression had actually percolated in her novels. To the Lighthouse, in the other novels that she had actually written, this sense of depression, this anxiety, this frustration, that all percolated within her, within her writings. So basically, and the other important thing is that her father was very much dominating. He was also very much caring, but he was also very much dominating, and that is why Virginia Woolf, while she was actually writing her novels, she was guided by her memories of her father. So basically, what happened was that when she was writing a novel, she had made the elderly people very much dominating. If you study her novels, that is maybe it is in Jacob's Room, Mrs. Dalloway, To the Lighthouse, Orlando, but most of them had actually contained very dominating patriarchal figures. And probably Virginia Woolf was guided by her memory of her own father. And because of the sexual abuses heaped on her by her brothers, she had once again come to suffer from a kind of stress disorder, which had also percolated in her writings. And that is why, Virginia Woolf is never a very easy author to study. She was always suffering from mental stress, mental trauma. She was trying to discover herself, what I really am. She was trying to discover herself. And that is why throughout her novels, she was actually creating characters who are confused about their own existence. Now, when you would be actually reading Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, you can feel that she was guided by the time-related philosophy of
Be
Henri
sure to
Bergson,
use a strong
who was a
password.
French
His
philosopher.
advice we all
And Henri Bergson had actually given the time, the notion of the time or the duration or the durée. Now, in durée or the duration or the time, in his concept, Bergson tried to say that, well, time cannot be actually calculated by mathematics, and time for different people is different. And when time is calculated scientifically, it is one sort, and when people are experiencing time, it becomes another sort. So basically, throughout Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, you can find this obsession with time. Now, Virginia Woolf had actually chosen the figure of the clock Big Ben, which hangs in the Westminster Square on the Parliament building, and it is always giving out this chime after every half an hour. And this chime actually indicates that the time is passing. Now, Lucrezia Warren Smith's conception of time, Clarissa Dalloway's conception of time, Septimus Warren Smith's conception of time, they're all different. Septimus is actually always waiting for the death, for his own death, for the death of the world, and that is why each and every moment he passes brings him 1 inch closer to his own death. Clarissa Dalloway is just passing away her time. She is bored with her life, and that is why time to her is one of, what to say, unmitigated boredom. She's just passing her minutes away. She knows that, well, I am married to a very high society, to a very, what to say, important person, to an important man who is totally uninvolved with me. He doesn't care 2 bits for me, and what I need to do is to arrange some parties for him, and she's just passing her time by arranging for the parties. Time to Lucrezia Warren Smith is something different. She's glad to be alive, that one day more she knows that, well, she's going to suffer, but at least she's alive in the company of Septimus Warren Smith. She was also very much doubtful whether the depression of Septimus Warren Smith is going to destroy her one day. Now, time to Elizabeth, this Doris Tillman, it is a time when we should actually begin with 1 day of more hatred, one more day of hatred, one more day of, a kind of bad feelings towards the British people, who had actually robbed her of her job. Time for Richard Dalloway is a time of office service. Time for Hugh Whitbread is a very enjoyable time, which is going to spend in company of his once beloved Clarissa Dalloway. Now, these people are having this different conceptions of time. Now, once again, another very important theme of Mrs. Dalloway is the conception of secularism. So we are getting people who actually know one another, but they are not exactly dependent on one another. Mind that Clarissa is not exactly entirely dependent on Richard Dalloway. Richard Dalloway is Dalloway. Hugh Whitbread is not directly connected to dependent on Clarissa. This Peter Walsh is not dependent on Clarissa in any way. Uh, William Bradshaw is not dependent on any of the figures to actually attain Clarissa Dalloway's party, where actually nothing happens other than the news of September 7th suicide reaching the party and people begin to think about him. Nothing actually happens. So basically, people are actually formally living in their own world, which is disjointed, which is disconnected. So if you feel that, well, Clarissa Dalloway is going to die in absence of Richard Dalloway, it is not the truth. Because Clarissa has got her own secular life. If you feel that Doris Tillman, in the absence of Elizabeth Dalloway, is going to kill herself or is going to be destroyed, it's not so. She has got her own life. So basically, people are actually living secularly, but it is also a kind of compartmentalization of the human beings. Now, this compartmentalization of the human beings have actually been brought about by the element of distress, the element of, what to say, kind of bad experiences which people had actually suffered from during the First World War. So basically, people are no longer trusting one another. And if you actually remember the the Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, which is published in 1922, or Ulysses by James Joyce, or the other novels which were actually published in 1922, and the poems also, most of them were actually focusing on the corruption of the British monarchy, British aristocracy, and everything, which had actually I'm always interrupted by this phone calls. So basically, this secular living, it's a form of compartmentalization of the people, which had actually brought about by the First World War, and the politics the politics of Britain, it had actually also suffered its reputation after the First World War, and therefore Clarissa, this Virginia, in many of her novels, she had actually tried to show the corruptions which were actually creeping in the British politics. So that is the concept of secular living. There are these existential issues that is in the conception of Clarissa Dalloway herself, and the conception of Peter was they are always thinking about what is going to happen today, how they are actually suffering from crisis in life, and they also do not have any idea of what is going to happen tomorrow. So basically, like all the other existentialists, they are always, what to say, kind of what to say, they're concerned with their present time. So basically, this is a kind of an existential crisis at work. These people do not know what is going to happen to them on the next day. For example, readers, when they're actually reading about the party of this Clarissa Dalloway, they do not know how Clarissa is going to cope up with Richard Dalloway on the next day. What the British Prime Minister is going to say of the party, how Richard Dalloway himself is going to prosper after the end of the party. So this is not know is that people are on instant making, and they are having their own existentialist issues. I have already referred to bisexuality. That is, there are at least three bisexual characters in the novel. First one is Clarissa Dalloway. Thereafter is Doris Tillman or Kierman, and there is Elizabeth Dalloway, who are bisexuals. Now, Virginia herself was bisexual, and if you remember that her what to say, bisexuality with Rita Segal first, and the other one was her relationship with this Rita group, it was very much disastrous. Whereas that Virginia effectively destroyed Rita group. So, because of bisexual leanings, people began to have. And whenever was trying characters, she could not come out of her bisexual ideas. So basically, bisexuality becomes a very important concern of a novel, that is Mrs. Dalloway. Now there is also this feminism. Now feminism, and if we actually try to interpret Mrs. Dalloway vis-a-vis the feminist perspective, now it is important that whom we should actually call a feminist. Is it Doris Clayton? Is it Elizabeth Dalloway? Is it Clarissa Dalloway? Is it or is it this Sally Seton? Interestingly, whenever you are judging things in the feminist perspective, you cannot say that Sally Seton is a fiery feminist because she has grown conventional with age. She has tried to settle down. She has learned to cope up with the intricacies of the patriarchal society. So basically, whenever you are analyzing the character from a patriarchal point of view, so from a feminist point of view, you cannot say that she actually qualifies as a feminist. Rather, Clarissa Dalloway passes this perspective. And then people try is going to her participants is also maintaining some system that of sound took out a new
Sir, sound not clear, sir. Shagas.
background.
Sound is not coming here.
Sound is not.
হ্যাঁ শোনা যাচ্ছে বাট সাউন্ড ইজ নট ক্লিয়ার
ঠিকঠাক আসছে না স্যার।
ইটস ইকো হ্যাঁ স্যার
বলছি ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডে কোনো আওয়াজ এসছে না কারণ একটা মানে কাউকে মিউট করতে হলো তো শুনতে পাচ্ছি না কিচ্ছু
প্লিজ আদার হ্যালো প্লিজ এভরিবডি প্লিজ মিউট ইউর মাইক্রোফোন
খুব আওয়াজ হচ্ছে ওকে Now, Mrs. Skillman, sorry, that is Miss Skillman, she is also not a feminist because she is always suffering from depression and she is suffering from her own existential crisis, and that is why she cannot be exactly, she has done exactly nothing which actually qualifies her to be a feminist. She hates Clarissa Dalloway. She is in love with her daughter, but that doesn't actually qualify her to be a feminist. So basically, when we are actually analyzing the whole story in the feminist perspective, we can say that only Mrs. Dalloway, she qualifies herself to be a feminist because of her own independence, and that is all. Amit, I would like to have an interactive session with people. So basically, here I give my picture.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For a detailed analysis of Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway. Now the session is open for question. You can unmute your speaker button and question.
Amit, বলছি তুমি তোমার ইউজিসি স্টুডেন্টদেরকে বলো যে কোনো ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজে তারা কোশ্চেন করতে পারে because I want to have
Okay. You can ask sir question even in Bengali also. If somebody can ask, in any other language, Bengali, Hindi, English, you can ask in any medium, okay? তোমরা বাংলাতেও জিজ্ঞাসা করতে পারো যদি কারো কোনো প্রবলেম মনে হচ্ছে শোনার সময় তোমরা বাংলাতেও জিজ্ঞাসা করতে পারো ঠিক আছে
Hello, I am Dheeraj Kumar from East Champaran district, Bihar.
Okay.
I have a question, sir. How can we analyze this particular novel from a stream of consciousness point of view?
Yeah, stream of consciousness point of view. Actually, I have deliberately missed that because it would take a very long discussion. Because in order to understand the stream of consciousness technique, you need to also have several ideas of the psychological analysis, and that is why, because of this 1 hour duration, that is why I deliberately skip that. We can have it. We can have this discussion through Facebook maybe. I've deliberately glossed over the whole thing because it's
Okay, sir.
what is another 1 hour of lecture maybe. It would begin from William James and Henry and all the other figures, and that is why I've actually skipped that, because it actually deals with the one day of life and the impressions they're rushing in as we think about them. So that is why we can say that it actually follows the stream of consciousness technique, which also was followed by James Joyce in his Ulysses. But well, it actually, in order to focus on the stream of consciousness technique, it would actually take another 1 hour. That is why I deliberately skipped that thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, my another question is, I am also Dheeraj Kumar. My another question is, the concept of time you have discussed, as you have discussed that what is the importance of watch, and so how can we say that this is very much significant in narrative technique point of view?
The passage of time.
Yes, sir. The passage of time, and
the novel actually is a focus on the existential crisis of these people. CRISES. I'm not using the term in singular sense, but in the plural sense. So basically, whenever people are actually faced with the existential crisis, time becomes very important, because all they are actually concerned with is their existence and the passage of time. And that is why this time becomes very important also in Virginals, Mrs. Dalway. They're just concerned with the present. They're just concerned with the passage of their life. What is going to happen today, and they're not concerned about tomorrow. All of them are actually having suffering from some crisis, and that is why time becomes very.
So, which kind of impact this concept of time is going to happen with the reader?
This concept of time is going to happen that the readers can actually understand that these people are actually passing their time in various sorts that I was discussing. That is, Clarissa Dalley was passing her time through boredom. Peter Walsh was passing her time through his fond memories of this Clarissa Dalley. Septimus Warren Smith was trying to pass his time waiting for death in this manner. That is how they're passing the time. And people and the readers are actually reading this, and they can understand that well, these people are actually inching towards their fate. What is going to happen to them?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for answering me.
Any other question, please? Any other question, please?
Amit, বলছি এর পরে আমি একটু লাস্টে একবার একটু স্ট্রিম অফ কনসিয়াসনেসটা বলে দিই, কারণ ঠিক বলেছেন ঠিক আছে, আমি ওটাকে গ্লস ওভার করে গেছি, কিন্তু প্রচুর টাইম লাগবে ওটার জন্য। ঠিক আছে, আমি একটু ছোট করে পরে বলে দিচ্ছি, বলে নি কারো সবাই কোশ্চেন।
Sir, even I would like to ask one question regarding this. I have one or two queries regarding this. Sir, regarding the function of World War I in Mrs. Dalway, is it catastrophe to be blamed? And another thing, and has it destroyed?
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Amit, শুনতে পাইনি, আরেকবার বলো।
First, sir, first query is it catastrophe to be blamed regarding this function of World War I? And the second one is, has it destroyed illusions of I mean that particular society of London society, or more or say the European society during that time?
Yes, completely destroyed the illusions, because before the First World War, the Britishers were very much idealistic, and all their idealisms were gone. And they thought that well, we are an integrated society and everything. And after the First World War, the 1 minute silence was being required during the month of November, not only to commemorate the armistice, but in also to remind the Britishers that we are united. It's very important. We have got several very good essays on the impact of the First World War Virgin Hole. And the First World War actually destroyed several British illusions regarding their integrity, regarding their honesty, regarding their conception of the society, regarding their humanitarian aid, and everything. Everything was destroyed. And that is why they were requiring this kind of a remembrance of 1 minute each and every November on 11th November in order to remind the Britishers that, well, we are still together. And that is why, that is how the total illusion of an integrated Britain was lost. And regarding the catastrophe of the First World War, and we are trying to say that, well, whether we should blame this for all the mishaps of the novel. In a sense, yes, Amit, because the First World War actually exposed the faults of the British politics. One, second is the First World War had actually created an indelible mark. It had actually ravaged the psychological constructs of the Britishers, and that is why none আমাদের যেমন এখন কোভিডের মধ্যে be the same again. Britishers after the First World War, also the Germans after the First World War, they could never be the same again. And so, particularly because of my own reading of the novel, I feel that, well, the First World War is something to be blamed exclusively for because of this crisis.
Okay, thank you, sir.
First World War জিনিস হচ্ছে আমাদের স্টুডেন্টদের জন্য খুব যেমন ব্রিটিশ সমস্ত কিছু ডিস্ট্রয় করে দিচ্ছে, যা কিছু তাদের আইডিয়াস ছিল, ইন্টিগ্রিটি ছিল, সমস্ত কিছু ডিস্ট্রয় করে দিচ্ছে। অন্যদিকে আরেকটা জিনিস যেটা হচ্ছে, ফার্স্ট ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়ার অলসো মার্ক দ্য এন্ড অফ দ্য ব্রিটিশ ইম্পেরিয়ালিজম। তো বেসিক্যালি এই যে আজকে আমরা হিউ হুইটবেটকে দেখতে পাচ্ছি, আমরা রিচার্ড ক্লারিস ডালওয়েকে দেখতে পাচ্ছি, যে আমরা আজকে পিটার ওয়েলসকে দেখতে পাচ্ছি, they are all the products of the British imperial exploitations. Now, because of the First World War, because of the destruction of this British imperialism, these characters had actually been losing their importance in the society. The First World War এর পরে কি হচ্ছে, যখনই ইম্পেরিয়ালিজমটা ডিস্ট্রয়েড হয়ে যাচ্ছে, টাকাটা যখন কম আসতে শুরু করছে, ব্রিটিশ যারা ভীষণ ইম্পর্টেন্ট পার্সোনালিটিস ছিল, they are actually losing their importance and they are also their job. So basically, that is how the First World War has actually created ravages on all the characters of this story.
Thank you, sir. Any other question, please? Students?
Direct question, যেরকম খুশি, anything.
তোমরা বাংলাতেও জিজ্ঞাসা করতে পারতো, ঠিক আছে?
হ্যাঁ, আমি কোনো ইন্টারঅ্যাক্টিভ সেশনটা চাইছি আর কি, প্লিজ এনিথিং। কিছু শোনা যাচ্ছে না। Anyone else?
Hello, sir.
Sir,
May I ask you a question?
Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir. Sir, we see somewhere in the second decade of the 20th century, the detective fictions, they are always coming up with those detectives who are sorting out every problem that we have in a society and bringing and trying to bring back the lost order that happened during the First World War.
Okay.
And the
last book.
And the order that you were talking about, that First World War, all the idealism, British idealism had lost, particularly during the First World War. So and the detective novel in the second decade of the 20th century, they try to always recover that loss, that always a male detective would come and sort out everything. So is the British novel during the detective fictions, they trying to recuperate and recover the glory that they had lost, and something that we are seeing in Mrs. Dalloway.
Yeah. Rajat, it's a very important observation. Actually, the British detective fiction was actually maturing after the First World War in such a way that the detective should always be brought in order to create some kind of orderliness in a society which was going through the dogs. Because this First World War, everything had been destroyed. So basically, it was the duty of the detective to bring some kind of order upon the society. Yeah, thank you. But there is no difference in Mrs. Dalloway. মিসেস আরো মাল্টিপল পয়েন্টস আছে যেগুলো আমি স্কিপ করে গেছি টাইমের জন্য আর কি, আর প্রচুর পয়েন্টস আছে একটু অন্তত স্ট্রিম অফ কনসেন্ট্রেশন একটু পরে বলছি, আর কিছু কিছু কোশ্চেন করে নি।
ওকে ওকে
হ্যালো স্যার।
প্লিজ
হ্যালো
বলো বলো।
স্যার, বলছি যে কোনো বিষয়ে প্রশ্ন করা হবে? বলছি যে স্যার, জর্জ থ্রির সময় যে ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল রেভলিউশন যেটা হয়েছিল, সেটার ইম্প্যাক্টটা সোসাইটিতে কি পড়েছিল সেটা একটু যদি বলেন।
ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল রেভলিউশন এর সোসাইটির উপর ইম্প্যাক্ট করেছিল লেট রোমান্টিক লিটারেচার এবং আর্লি প্রথম দিকে করেছিল। ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল রেভলিউশনের ফলে factories had grown up, and in order to find employment in the factories, thousands and thousands of people are migrating from the villages to the cities, and they are settling all around the cities, and the slums had grown up, and these people are being mercilessly exploited by the capitalists. তাদেরকে চিমনি হিসেবে কাজে লাগানো হতো, যাদেরকে সেক্সুয়ালি এক্সপ্লয়েট করা হতো, যেগুলোর উপর বেস করে চার্লস ল্যাম্বের প্রেজ অফ দি চিমনি সুইপার্স লেখা আছে। আচ্ছা, ইয়ের তোমার টমাস ডিকিন্সের বা ইয়ের উপরে ওদের বেশ কিছু লেখা আছে যেগুলো ফোকাস করে। 2 নম্বর একটা বিষয় ইম্পর্টেন্ট জিনিস ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল রেভলিউশনের ফলে হয়েছিল, দ্য নেচার ওয়াজ বিং লস্ট। যেটা ভার্জিন নেচার, যেটা খুব সুন্দর এগ্রিকালচারাল নেচার, সেটা আস্তে আস্তে ডিস্ট্রয় হয়ে যাচ্ছিল। এবং সেই জন্য কি হচ্ছিল, আজকে পিপল হ্যাড অ্যাকচুয়ালি কনসিডার্ড ইট টু বি দেয়ার ডিউটি টু প্রিজার্ভ দ্য মেমোরিজ অফ নেচার or everything which was natural rural to their times, to their writings. সেই জন্য কি হয়, আমরা দেখতেছি যে লেট রোম্যান্টিক এবং আর্লি ভিক্টোরিয়ান যুগে প্রচুর পরিমাণে নেচার রাইটিংস থাকে, যার মধ্যে অ্যাকচুয়ালি এই যে রুরালিটি, এই যে নেচার, এগুলোকে প্রিজার্ভ করে রাখা হয়েছিল। এটাই অ্যাকচুয়ালি ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল রেভলিউশন এইভাবে
আরেকটা কোশ্চেন মানে বলছি, রোমান্টিক পিরিয়ডে যে নভেলটা যখন নতুন করে রাইজ হচ্ছিল, মানে সেই সময় কি কি ইমপ্রুভ আর কি?
রোমান্টিক পিরিয়ডে নভেল রাইজ হয়নি, নভেলটা রাইজ হয়েছিল ইন দ্য অ্যারাউন্ড দ্য 1710s and 1720s এর দিকে। রোমান্টিক পিরিয়ড তার কারণটা হচ্ছে যখন ব্রিটিশ ইম্পেরিয়ালিজম প্রচুর পরিমাণে টাকা ইংল্যান্ডে নিয়ে আসছিল, সেই সময় একটা মিডল ক্লাস গড়ে ওঠে, and these people wanted a literature of their own, a genre of their own, যে জনরাটাকে যে কোনো সময় টেক আপ করতে হবে এবং যে কোনো সময় রেখে দিতে হবে, এবং যে জনরাটা পড়তে গেলে প্রচুর পরিমাণে নলেজ লাগবে, and obviously নভেল পপ আপ। এবার তুমি একটা এখন নভেল অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমরা যেটা ট্রান্সলেট করি,
সাউন্ডটা ঠিকঠাক আসছে না স্যার।
আসছে না, বলছি যে আমরা যেটাকে যেভাবে আমরা ট্রান্সলেট করি যে নভেলকে আমরা উপন্যাস হিসেবে, নভেল কিন্তু উপন্যাস না, নভেল ইজ সামথিং। সেই জন্য কিন্তু আমরা যেটাকে বাংলা ট্রান্সলেট ইউজুয়ালি বাংলা ট্রান্সলেট কি করি, সেটাকে আমরা উপন্যাস বলি তো, কিন্তু অ্যাকচুয়ালি নভেলের এক্সাক্ট ট্রান্সলেশন কিন্তু উপন্যাস না, সেটা মানে হচ্ছে সামথিং নিউ। এবার যেটা হচ্ছে যে মিডল মানে মিডল পিপল ওয়েলথ আসছে, এবং সে সময় তাদের স্পেসিফিক জনরা করে যে সময় পড়তে পারবে, এটাই নভেল। সুতরাং রোমান্টিক পিরিয়ডে কিন্তু নভেল রাইজ করে, রোমান্টিক পিরিয়ডে অনেক আগে নভেল রাইজ করে, ডিউরিং দ্য অগস্ট of the classical period.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Next.
Sir. Hello, sir. Sir, actually, we have a question from YouTube Live. Mr. Deepanjan has questioned this. How is Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalway's related to post-colonial trauma and uncertainties?
No, it is not post-colonial trauma. I am very sorry to say. There is absolutely no post-colonial trauma in it. এটার মধ্যে একদম নেই, পোস্ট-কলোনিয়াল ট্রমার মধ্যে একেবারে নেই। এটা যদি কেউ বলে থাকে মানে তিনি কিভাবে বলছেন আমি জানি না, মানে I strongly disagree with this term. There is no post-colonial trauma. Absolutely not.
Sir, who is the responsible for the tragedy with Septimus?
Responsible for the tragedy? Okay, it's a very great question. Actually, we are here to blame the First World War, but once again, First World War was actually a war which was began with the imperialistic tendencies. So basically, imperialism in turn.
Sir, can we not say that the psychiatrist, the doctor, is responsible for this?
Psychiatrists, what they had actually done is that they had actually mistreated Septimus. but they were in no way directly responsible for the deterioration for his condition. It actually began when his superior officer Evans was killed in the First World War and he had suffered from shell shock. Now, importantly, if you actually read the history of post-traumatic stress disorder or neurasthenia or shell shock, it is something which is actually beyond the hands of the psychiatrists even now. The American soldiers were serving in Iraq and this Afghanistan. Several people had actually suffered from this PTSD. Now, interestingly, the psychiatrists had a complete loss about how to actually treat these people successfully. So basically, when we are actually studying the history of neurasthenia or shell shock, there is not much that the psychiatrists can do. What they could have done is to treat Septimus with some kind of benevolence or something like that. It would have been okay, but well, because Septimus's dangerous condition was actually brought about by the persecutor. I can actually Virgin Woolf had actually criticized Dr. Savage because he had also goofed up with while he was treating Virgin Woolf. But well, Septimus's condition is brought about by the first world, and importantly, another thing I'd actually deleted after that, several writers were closeted homosexuals. Among them because that fate of England living under the shadows of the Great War, they had actually come to prop up some homosexual relationships with different people, which they are extremely nervous to bring before the society because they were ostracized. So basically, because of this sexual repression, they had come to crop up several psychological disorders. Now, even now, there is exactly no treatment for PTSD, which actually can crop up because of war, which can come out of sexual abuse, which can also come out of sexual repression. Now, this had actually happened. T.S. Eliot, when he was actually in the early stage of his writing poems, he was a closeted homosexual, and he had dedicated a number of homosexual poems to, and it was actually severely criticized by Ezra Pound, and he had actually tried to bring T.S. Eliot back to the path of quote unquote norm. So basically, this was happening. So several people who were homosexually inclined, they knew that these homosexuals would be very would be dealt with severely by the people. So basically, suffering from depression and the conditions portion. Hello, Amit. Hello, Amit.
হ্যাঁ
Hello.
স্যার
কথা
হ্যাঁ একটু কাটা কাটা শোনাচ্ছে স্যার, নেটওয়ার্কের একটু মাঝে একটু প্রবলেম হচ্ছে।
নেটওয়ার্কের প্রবলেম আছে মনে হচ্ছে।
হ্যাঁ নেটওয়ার্কের একটু প্রবলেম হচ্ছিল। হ্যাঁ কোশ্চেন স্যার করবেন।
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Hello. Sir, thank you, sir, for the splendid presentation of Mrs. Dalloway. Another level of thought-provoking. Actually, basically, my question is, how does Mrs. Dalloway evoke the modernist idea of subjective reality? Subjective reality.
Okay.
How does Mrs. Dalloway evoke the modernist idea of subjective reality? Actually, the reality people create for themselves in the novels, sir. I want to know the subjective reality.
বিভিন্ন সময়ের মাধ্যমে hallucinationের মাধ্যমে the way they are actually spending their life, these are all the subjective realities for these people, specific people. They are suffering from existential crisis, and interesting that actually becomes their subjective reality.
Sir, in this way, fantasy or fantastic elements will include.
Exactly suffering from fantasy, but these people, they are actually cooking in their own life, and they are trying to things based on their own interpretations. And that's why they're actually referring to the issue of subjective reality. And I just have a tomorrow, Nasir. They do not have an yesterday, they don't have tomorrow. They're only living their own life today. They do not know what is going to happen tomorrow because they cannot understand British politics, British life, British world, anything they don't understand. They do not understand anything.
Okay, sir. One technical problem I cannot catch fully, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Actually, in this point, sir, in this point of view, how does Mrs. Dalloway or Wolf modernist technique of unreliable narrators, sir? What is the standpoint? Unreliable narrators.
Unreliable narrator, I beg to differ with you. I do not think that there is any unreliable narrator here. Because Virginia Woolf had actually been following a very strange way of narration. She is sometimes narrating the whole thing in the third person, and thereafter she is also taking the help of direct speeches. So basically, unreliable narrator কেউ যদি ব্যবহার করে থাকেন, it is his or her responsibility. I do not think that there is any unreliable. কারণ এখানটায় তুমি যখন বলছো যে সাবজেক্টিভ রিয়ালিটি আছে বা সাবজেক্টিভ রিয়ালিটি কিন্তু এক একজনের কাছে রিয়ালিটিটা কিন্তু একরকম ভাবে ধরা পড়ছে। এবার সেই জন্য আনরিলায়েবল ন্যারেটর বললে তাকে একটা ফিক্সড ট্রুথে স্টিক করে রাখতে হবে। There is no fixed truth here. So basically, sorry, I cannot agree with this. যেমন এই যে পোস্ট কলোনিয়াল ট্রমা যেটা পোস্ট কলোনিয়াল ট্রমাটার মধ্যে একটা ফোটাও নেই। আমরা যদি এখন জোর করে দিই, there is absolutely no post colonial trauma. It is actually a novel about the impact of the first world war on several people. How these people have been ravaged by the first world war. এবং আরেকটা জিনিস আমি তোমাদেরকে বলিনি, I must also mention this, that when this Mrs. Dalloway was being conceived, that was in 1925, it was also the area or the era of Weimar Republic in Germany. Now, Virginia Woolf, because of her several connections with the Germans, and she had also, you should also remember that her maternal grandfather and grandmother, they belonged to, they were Anglo-Indians, they were Persian Indians, and Virginia Woolf had also got a deep connection with the Germans. Now, she was deeply interested in the progressions of the German politics during the 1920s. Now, it was the era of Weimar Republic in Germany. Now, in Weimar Republic, things are becoming very much corrupt in Germany. It was supposed to be a government which would be very fair and honest and everything. But what exactly happened was that Weimar Republic was an era of, what to say, unabashed corruption. So basically, Virginia Woolf was shocked, and that is why when she was also focusing on the British politics of appeasement of the Germans and everything, she was also trying to bring in the German corruptions in her novel. And in several of her later, she had actually mentioned that the corruptions, and that is why the kind of politics that you are actually reading in Mrs. Dalloway, it is totally a corrupt politics, which actually indicates not only the British politics but also the politics under the German leaders like Schleicher and Karl and everything. And so she was very much shocked, and that is why we are getting a composite picture of what was happening in British politics and German politics. Virginia Woolfের বিভিন্ন চিঠির মধ্যে কিন্তু উনি বারবার করে এই Weimar রিপাবলিকের প্রতি ওনার ইন্টারেস্ট, British এবং ইন্টারেস্ট নেই। You know that this shell shock, it was actually a term which was interestingly very much reserved for the British soldiers. I do not know how or why, because I'm myself working for my postdoctoral on this war writings. But interestingly, most of the references that I have found are actually of the British soldiers. জার্মানরা কি ভয় পেত না ভালো মতো, নাকি তারা বেশি ভয় পেত? About this shell shock would be speaking about the British soldiers. Now, Septimus Warren Smith ওনার কি হয়েছে ঘাড়ের কাছে একটা শেল পড়েছিল বা দীর্ঘদিন ধরে he was actually being bombarded, and he also had seen his superior officer go up in beats because of a German shell, and he had come to suffer from the shell shock. Actually তোমরা যদি ভার্জিনিয়া উলফের মিসেস ডালওয়ে দেখো, সেটা হচ্ছে কতগুলো জিনিসের উপর বেস করে। প্রথম জিনিসটা হচ্ছে how the First World War had actually ravaged the life of people all around in England. Second is how the British politics was going to the dogs, and third how the loss of imperialistic ventures was actually tinkering with the British politics. But well, there was no, once again, post-colonial trauma in that. It was actually kind of how the First World War was actually weakening the British control on the colonies. তুমি যদি আজকে হিউইট ব্রেডের ক্যারেক্টারটা পিটার ওয়ালশের ক্যারেক্টারটা দেখো, he was a colonial officer who was quite happy with his life in India, but well, his own marriage related problems also indicates that how things were going gradually going bad for him in India also. It was also a kind of symbolic representation of how the things are actually going bad for the Britishers in India as well because of this First World War. এটাই actually এটার মধ্যে কিন্তু মিসেস ডালওয়ের মধ্যে কিন্তু it is actually several critics, তোমরা যদি আজকে সার্চ করে several critics দেখবে যে এইগুলো ইম্প্যাক্ট অন দি ফার্স্ট ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়ার। ইন্টারেস্টিং, আমি একটু আগে সকালবেলা আজকে একটা লেখা পড়ছিলাম যার মধ্যে ওখানে পরিষ্কার করে বলা আছে that is Mrs. Dalloway is a war novel with a difference. Now interestingly, some people had actually identified this as a war novel itself. Now সেই জন্য কি হচ্ছে বলতো, ফার্স্ট ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়ার এর এই যে বেসিক কনসেপশন গুলো we can actually find in Mrs. Dalloway, যে কিভাবে ফার্স্ট ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়ার actually ravaged everything. তারপর
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, ওই পোস্ট মডার্ন পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউ থেকে আলোচনা চলছিল, তাই বলছিলাম কি যে Woolf had chosen urban setting for Mrs. Dalloway, and there is no rural setting or rural connection. Would you kindly say something on this?
Yeah, interestingly, modernism in literature was actually confined to people who had settled in the city and who could have an access to a well-stocked library. Otherwise, people who are living in the villages without the proper facilities of library and everything, they couldn't actually understand modernism because it was extremely technical. It was actually relegated for the well-educated people, because there were number of allusions and everything, and there are numerous references all around. So unless and until you become a very educated person who had actually studied in Oxford or Cambridge or in premier British institutions, so it was impossible for you to actually grab what was actually going on in the name of modernism. That is why modernism is always very much urban. It's very much urban. Actually যতটা লেখা হয়েছে কিন্তু একমাত্র একটাই জনরাকে, মানে একটাই আমরা গ্রুপ অফ রাইটিংস কে দেখতে পাবো which actually was meant for the people who lived in the countryside as well as for the citizens, that was romantic writings. Otherwise, beginning with Renaissance, each and everything was relegated to the city. একমাত্র রেনেসাঁ যুগে ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালিজমের উপর ফোকাস করা হতো জন্য, সবার ইকুয়াল পার্টিসিপেশন চাওয়া হতো জন্য আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি ওখানে গ্রামের লোকরা রিপ্রেজেন্টেশন পাচ্ছে। বাদ বাকি whenever you be actually dealing with the history of literature beginning with Renaissance, you would feel that well, all these people have actually settled in the city. তুমি আজকেও পোস্ট মডার্ন যুগেও নাটকগুলো শেষ করে দেখো না, তুমি কয়টা লোকে গ্রামের কোট আনকোট আমরা যেটাকে বলি রুরাল এরিয়া পিপল, তারা কজন কন্ট্রিবিউটর আছে তুমি বলো তো? পোস্ট মডার্ন যুগে বলো, মডার্ন যুগে বলো, কয়জন তুমি গ্রামের লোককে দেখতে পাবে? তার কারণটা হচ্ছে যতক্ষণ না তোমার একটা সলিড এডুকেশন থাকবে, যতক্ষণ না তোমার একটা ওয়েল স্টক লাইব্রেরি থাকবে, you cannot actually participate in the characteristic features of modernism. So basically, it's very difficult to live in the countryside and participate in modernism. And stream of consciousness technique, আমি একটু অমিতকে বলেছিলাম বলবো, it was actually William James who had actually coined it had been popularized in his Principles of Psychology, which was published in 1890, and before that this term was coined by Alexander Bain. Now, stream of consciousness technique is actually a kind of narration in which we narrate in the same manner we conceive our ideas without any logical idea. Now, it actually, if we remember Coleridge's definition of fancy, primary imagination, secondary imagination, stream of consciousness is actually a narrative technique which focuses on fancy. আমাদের যেগুলো চিন্তা ভাবনা আছে, the impressions গুলো আছে, সেই impressions গুলো without any order we are presenting it in that manner.
Yes.
After reading throughout the thing, after completing the whole thing, we can actually get a coherent whole. Otherwise, it is actually kind of a narrative technique where we are arranging our thoughts as we actually think of them. সেটার মধ্যে কিন্তু কোনো অর্ডার নেই, যেটা আমাদের সকালবেলা উঠলাম, আমরা আগামীকাল কি করবো চিন্তা করলাম, তারপরে আমরা চলে গেলাম 5 years before, thereafter 7 years, what would you do after passing the exams and everything. So basically there is a kind of quote unquote lack of order in the whole thing, and in order to present the whole thing in that manner, the stream of consciousness technique was championed. It was a very new narrative technique because there was no beginning, no end, and no middle. It was a kind of experiment thing. I actually glossed over the whole thing because of the shortness of time, because stream of consciousness technique ওদেরকে আরো অনেকগুলো জিনিস আগে আমাকে বলতে হতো because it is supposed to be the UG students lectures. So basically I have actually glossed over this stream of consciousness technique. কারণ সেটা আমাকে তাহলে কিছু মানে কি লাইন্স বাই লাইন অ্যানালাইজ করতে হতো. Okay, next.
Sir, one question. Sir, if it is not in the inverted comma, how can we make difference that the description is by the character or by the narrator?
Pardon?
Sir, should I repeat the question?
Please.
So if the description, suppose there is a paragraph in a novel and the description is not in the inverted comma, so it is a kind of indirect narration. So how can we make difference, or how can we understand that the description is from the narrator point of view or from the character point of view?
It is actually a question which people with a deep idea of reader response criticism could answer. So basically, sorry, I cannot answer this. It is not possible for me to answer this. But it's a very important question, Dheeraj. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Master,
anyone else is having any
Actually,
questions?
yeah, you have discussed from the stream of consciousness, from the stream of consciousness point of view. Actually, my question is, how does Mrs. Dalloway show the difference between the clock time and the subjective human experience of time?
Clock time, যেটা বললাম যে that was actually the concept of Bergson's theory of the duration. So basically, time is actually different for different people, and is also different from the scientific time. So basically, now when it is striking 12, when the Big Ben is striking 12, for the office it's just a kind of another hour. But for Septimus Warren Smith, he is one way more towards his grave. For Lucrezia Warren Smith, it is just another hour of torture. For Clarissa Dalloway, she is inching towards her evening party. That is how they are actually, experiencing the time.
Thank you, sir.
Amit,
Anyone else?
আচ্ছা আমি তোমাদের ইয়ে রাখতে ফিমেল স্টুডেন্টস সাথে কোনো ফিমেল ক্লাস নেই কেন?
আছে স্যার, কিন্তু ওরা কোশ্চেন মনে হয় না
মানে they can ask them any language.
Yeah, I told them they can ask in Bengali also.
আমি তো ইন্টারেক্টিভ সেশন চাইছিলাম. You can ask them any question.
Sir, actually we are asking questions, several questions, and the questions are roused in the mind of the PG graduation student also, and they are shared by our... Okay, sir.
I always believe in this kind of interaction.
Yes. If there is no other question, sir, we will stop here.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such interactive session and such wonderful lectures of you. And thank you, participants. Also, we will look forward to tomorrow's sessions. We'll end here for today's session. Okay. Then I'll send each and everyone tomorrow's this link for tomorrow's session. I'll send them by evening. And we will look forward for tomorrow's sessions. Thank you, sir. Thank you again. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.